Hi, this is Matt from Tradesman Digital Marketing. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the most common mistakes inside Google Ads. Now, I did make a video about this a little bit ago, but this is updated, revised, and optimized. And these are the most common mistakes I see in Google Ads time and time again. They're generally the ones that cost the most money, and these are ones that are easily avoidable. So, to start it off, the very first thing I see very common in a lot of Google ads is not using multiple ads in your account. This may sound very simplistic, and I generally get this issue phrased in one of two ways. One is my account is just doing very poorly, and I don't know why. And the second is my account has started, and it's been about a week, and I've only gotten 200 impressions and maybe like a click or two. I don't know why. And then I go through this entire troubleshooting process to find out that the individual has one ad or maybe three or four ad groups with the exact same ad. So technically they have like three or four ads, but it's the same ad. And Google has, for whatever reason, deemed this ad as bad, not going to show it, and therefore your account isn't going to run and you're not going to see any impressions or clicks. Therefore, no actual conversions for you, no money made. And this is very, very common. I am shocked by how many people actually even follow my tutorials. And I tell them in the tutorials, hey, make sure you add a whole bunch of ads, then A/B test this so you have a super high click-through rate. This then bumps your quality score up, lowers your cost per click, lowers your cost per lead, and just leads to a whole bunch more leads coming in and making a much more successful campaign. So that being said, please use multiple ads and always be testing them. Don't just run with one ad. The next thing is using accurate conversion tracking. Now, if you are doing a e-commerce campaign, I'm not going to talk too much about that, but if you are doing leads and specifically phone call leads, which we do a lot for service-based businesses, specifically the skilled trades, most of these individuals, these business owners or whoever is running the account, they want phone calls. They don't really want email inquiries. They want phone calls. And the best way to track phone calls inside Google Ads, yes, Google has its own phone call tracking. They give you 40 numbers, but it's not that great. We use a platform like CallRail. It's third party. It's absolutely amazing. You can record phone calls. You can track them. You can see exactly which keyword was sent you that call. It's absolutely fantastic, and it is as close to perfect as you're going to get inside Google tracking. This really lets your Google AI optimize and produce better results for you inside your campaign. So it's very, very important to have proper conversion tracking set up. Making sure even for normal email inquiries or just general conversion tracking is also set up properly on your landing pages or your website, whatever you're sending traffic to. Very important because if you don't know where your actual leads are coming from, and you don't give Google's AI the ability to optimize over time, which can produce you even better results. The next thing is not using multiple ad groups. Keep ad copy relevant. So you need to have multiple ad groups if you have more than realistically one keyword or a keyword with a different type of intention. So if you have, let's say, HVAC repair and HVAC installation, these things may seem very similar, and you don't really need different ad copy, but they are different to your consumer, and that one word in the actual headline can make a big difference on whether or not people click on it. Most companies aren't going to take the time to actually change their ad copy around because they think it's a big waste of time. But little do they know it actually impacts your click through rate quite a bit. So it is worth building out multiple ad groups so you keep your ad copy as relevant to your keyword as possible and making sure you present to the consumer that you know their problem, you understand their problem, and you can solve it if they click on your ad. So that's very important to do. One thing I should mention is don't make your campaign overly complex. Don't add like thousands of ad groups because it's going to be a pain to manage. But do as much as you can by keeping your ad copy relevant. And that would be my advice to you. So build out as many ad groups as it takes to keep your ad copy relevant to your actual keywords. The next thing is not using landing pages. And I talk about landing pages all the time. I love landing pages. They're awesome. I can't really recommend them enough because generally when you compare them to a normal website, they kill websites in terms of performance. They're absolutely amazing. So when you take a look at a normal website, generally they convert anywhere from 0.5% to right around 5%. I've even seen some upwards of 10%. But generally, this is a very similar look to a landing page, and they're just kind of copying the landing page. If you just use landing pages, generally they convert anywhere from 10 to 40%. and you can double, triple, quadruple your returns overnight. It is definitely worth it. Yeah, it may cost you a couple $100 to set it up, but if you're, doubling or tripling your return overnight, it is definitely worth it and something we recommend every service business be using for lead generation. If you're going to run Google Ads, that is. The next is not understanding your goal. And the goal for every campaign in Google Ads generally should be profit. How much money can I make at the end of the day and maximizing profit? Um, Too many people look at just the metrics. I had a guy the other day and he had a very high impression share. I think it was like 95% or something like that. And he was very happy with it. However, he wasn't getting any clicks to his account and he wasn't getting any leads or conversions. Um, and I went into the account, looked around, and I saw that his bid limit was right around $5. So he was maxing out at $5 a click. And when I looked at the actual keyword planner, it said, look, these clicks generally range from anywhere from $12 to $28. So he was, pricing himself way below the market. He wasn't going to get any clicks. And I said, listen, you got to up your maximum cost per click to get like traction in the account, to get clicks, to be able to optimize your account, to get leads, to make money. That's what you got to do. And he said, but I have a very high impression share. And if I raise my cost per click, I might lower that. And I said, yeah, that's a risk you have to take. Like, yeah, that is important. Impression share is important, but the more important thing is actually making money for the client. And so many people get lost up in just the metrics. Like, yes, impression share is a metric of success, and yes, you'd like it to be as high as possible. Yes, quality score is a metric of success, and you'd like it to be as high as possible. But the goal should be profit, and everything other than that should be looked at with a grain of salt. How do we make this person the most amount of money possible? That should be the end goal, and too many people get lost in the metrics. So it's something just to keep in mind. Don't lose track of your end goal, which is profit, and maximizing that for your client or yourself, whoever's running the account. The next thing is not having a good account structure. So there's two ways of really messing up your account. One is just making like thousands of ad groups and just making it overly complex and it's too difficult. The next thing is making it too simple and there's no way to actually customize each ad group for ad copy that is relevant to these keywords. And really what you should be doing is theming your account structure properly. So say you have one service and that is roofing. Under roofing, each ad group could be re-roofing, commercial roofing, residential roofing, and then you could have ads targeting these ad groups. And it's very simple. If you put all of these keywords, so say you have one ad group and you have one ad, and this ad says roof repair. But in this ad group, you have commercial roofing, re-roofing, residential roofing, uh, roofing repair, all this stuff. Your ad is never really going to speak to the customer's problem because you're too vague. You need to go more granular. You need to make out more. You need to build out more ad groups, and you need to expand the account and make it more relevant to your customer's problem. And that's really what good account structure looks like. It looks like you're every time someone types in a keyword that you're targeting, that ad copy is relevant to the customer's problem. Like I said earlier in this, being relevant to your customer's problem and having multiple ad groups and really speaking to the customer's problem is a great way to boost click-through rate, lower your cost per click, raise your quality score, and just be more successful overall in your account. The next thing is trying to steal competitors' clicks. I see this all the time. Business owners tell me all the time, listen, I have this competitor. I want to place my ad above them. Just do it. And I always respond with no. just just because it is a terrible idea and I tell them, listen, you're going to waste a whole bunch of money. It's not worth it. I've seen this done time and time again. When someone is searching for a brand keyword, so say XYZ roofing, and then you place your ad above them, especially if it's a call only ad, and they see this phone number, they're going to assume that phone number belongs to XYZ roofing, and they are looking for XYZ roofing. So when they call that phone number, they're anticipating XYZ roofing picking up the phone. And when they don't, they get upset, they hang up the phone, and they go back to XYZ roofing regardless. And now you've just wasted a whole bunch of money. So stealing competitors' clicks inside service-based business accounts is really just a stupid thing to do. Don't do it. I recommend against this in almost any case. I think you could probably pull it off in some e-commerce accounts with very similar products like Kleenex and also selling tissue paper, but because Kleenex is kind of like a vague term, But for service-based businesses and generating leads, this is just a terrible idea. Do not do this, and it is a common mistake I see inside Google Ads accounts. The next thing is not knowing what a lead is worth to you. And I see this so often, and people will burn a whole bunch of money trying to get leads, and they're like, yeah, I seem to be losing money. And it's like, well, how much are you paying per lead? And they're like, well, $100 a lead. And I'm like, okay, what is a lead worth to you? And they're like, $500. I'm like, okay, well, how many leads does it take for you to convert one person to a client? They're like, well, right around 10. And it's like, yeah, that's easy. I solved your problem. You're spending $1,000 to acquire $500 in revenue. Like, there's your issue. Do you need to be perfect though in knowing your lead cost? No, you don't have to be perfect, but you got to be, around the ballpark of, okay, this is what we're willing to pay for a lead, and this is what we're not willing to pay for a lead. This is very, very basic stuff. You need to know your numbers inside your Google Ads account, and it's very commonly overlooked. And if you're doing e-commerce, you need to know your numbers to the dot. You can't play around with that. In service-based businesses, you can kind of get around. You have a little bit more wiggle room, but you still need to know approximately what a lead is worth to you and what it is worth to the company. The next thing is not using proper match types. And oh my God, I see this all the time. People will use match types that blow my mind. They have like 400 or 500 broad match keywords in an account, and they don't know why they aren't getting the results they wanted. And there's a good example. I did an audit for a guy last week. He had 600 or so keywords, phrase match keywords in the account, and he couldn't understand why his account wasn't performing great. And I said, well, how many negatives do you have? And he said, a few hundred. And I'm like, you have 600 broad match or phrase match keywords, and Google is just going to search for all these variations. And you're spending all this money on keywords that one aren't getting enough data because there's just no way. What he was spending just wasn't enough to actually get data for those phrase match keywords and figure out which ones are good, which ones are bad. The second thing is the actual search term report was like 10,000 keywords, and he had to sift through all that data. It's just going to burn so much time. It's not worth it. And you really need to know which match type you're using, especially for service-based businesses. It's very important. If it's e-commerce, you can get away with broad match and using Google's AI to optimize for that. But service-based businesses, specifically phone call leads and email inquiries, you need to be using exact match. You need to be using a little bit of phrase match just to expand the account. But you need to know what match type you're using. Otherwise, you will burn a lot of money. The next thing is not using any negatives or using very few negatives. And if you're using only exact match, do you really need negatives? Not really. It's probably still good to use them, but not really, not much. But if you're using phrase match or broad match, you need negatives, or else you will burn a lot of money very quickly. And it shocks me how many companies they'll add a few hundred negatives and then they will never look at that negative list again. And it's like, dude, you need to be in this account constantly optimizing, at least once a week, depending on how much data you're pulling into the account, how much you're spending, looking at the search terms report, looking what, keywords are performing well, which ones you need to get rid of, which ones you need to add to the negative list. And if you don't do that, you're going to burn so much money on keywords that just aren't worth bidding on, and it's going to make your life very miserable because you're not going to be able to, increase your account performance over time. So, yeah, using negatives is a big must inside Google Ads. The next thing is using too many keywords with not enough data. And what I mean by this is people will add several hundred keywords to an ad group, and then they'll be spending like $25 a day, and their normal cost per click is 5 or 10 bucks a day. So maybe you get at max 5 clicks a day, and you have several hundred keywords, and there's just no way to optimize for this. So people get confused and they're like, well, I just don't have enough data. And it's like, yeah, you need to reduce, you need to concentrate, you need to figure out what's working. So maybe have a handful of keywords, like 5 or 10 keywords, um, and then get enough data, figure out which ones are working, optimize, build out those keywords in their own ad groups, and then expand from there. Don't start with several hundred keywords because there's no way you're going to get enough data uh, to the account to look at which keywords are going to be profitable and which ones are going to be losers. And there's just going to be no way to actually accurately judge which ones you should be getting rid of and which ones you should be keeping. So that was the final common mistake I see inside Google Ads. These are really, really common. You'd be surprised how many accounts suffer from one of these issues. I'd say almost all of them do, if they're not being run properly, suffer from one of these mistakes. That being said, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to answer them. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day and take care. I wish you all well.